everyone. Welcome to the first half of our lesson. Today we'll be working on painting this lovely spring scene that really called to me. And I think it fits our theme of emerging really well. The buds, the soft gentle background, and how the bird emerges from the softness with its gorgeous feathers and gentle blue colors. I just loved it. In this lesson, I used Pan Pastels for the backdrop. They're perfectly suited for making this kind of out of focus, dappled look, and I had so much fun laying them down. I have a list of which colors I used and which tools, and those are on my Patreon page. Speaking of Patreon, the second half of this lesson is only available to my subscribers, and my Patreon's only $5 a month to join. I would absolutely love to welcome you to the family. Now, let's head over to the easel and get dusty. Different this time, and I'm going to use some Pan Pastels, and I will put the colors that I'm using, I'll put the shade names in the description on the Patreon channel so you know which ones I'm using. But basically I have a selection of greens and some grayish blues, and I'm going to use those for my background because our background is really soft and muted. It's very blurred, so I want to use Pan Pastels for that. These are really good for that kind of background effect. I've seen people create gorgeous detailed paintings with them. I have not gotten to that skill level yet. Maybe someday, but for me, they make a great use for the background. So I'm just using one of the sponges that's available from the manufacturer for these pastels. And if you're not familiar with Pan Pastels, they're the exact same material as a pastel, but they're in these little pans. Hence their name, I assume. And you can use different types of tools to put them down on the paper, and they're pretty versatile from what I understand. I have seen quite a few tutorials with them. I'm still building up my collection and kind of my knowledge, but thought we'd give it a go using them here for the background. And I'm just using the same sponge because I'm not gonna be upset if my colors bleed into each other. It's kind of the effect I'm going for. I want to make this really soft and a nice gradient from color to color. Just trying to bring a little bit more of warmth back in here, because I don't have the exact colors as the background, which is fine. I'm not trying to paint exactly what I see, but I do want to capture the same level of warmth back there. And as you can see, these layer quite nicely. One thing I like about them too is they don't really fill up the tooth on the paper. So that's a nice bonus. So now I'm bringing in some of this brighter yellow. Just again, getting a little more warmth, just kind of in the center here, a little off to the side. This painting, or I'm sorry, the photo doesn't really have shadows in it. It's extremely flat in terms of the values. I put it into a black and white version just to look at it, and there's really not a lot of dark value other than the tree branch and the little the area above the eye on the bird. So it's very flat. So I am going to be adding a little bit more depth to it than what we see in the photo, just to give it a touch more life. All right, so now I am going to switch sponges because I'm gonna be using white, and well, you know what? I'm gonna stick with my sponge. So I'm just gonna come in with white on top just to lighten this all up, because it is pretty dark. And again, I don't have the full range of pans, but even if I did, there's not going to be a pan for every possible color in the spectrum. So just like with regular pastels, you have to think about how you're going to layer and what you want your colors to come out as in the end. And I knew I was going to have to lighten these up. So that's why I pulled out my white. This is making a really nice, very, very lovely, lighter look here. Now also in the back on this side, it looks like there's a lot of, I don't know if those are blossoms that are out of focus or light speckles, but there's some things going on here in the background. And this is another thing that pan pastels are really good for, is creating kind of these blurry background effects. And just by dabbing and then kind of moving my sponge around, I can fuzz out these edges and really create kind of the look that I'm going for. I'm going to switch to a little bit of a smaller sponge now, just to do some of the smaller circles and shapes that are in the back here. I'm just going to apply, and I'm going to come back in with my bigger sponge to kind of blur them out again. This is letting me put a little more pigment down. The big sponge doesn't pick up quite as much as the small sponge does. So now I'm just gonna gently dab where I put these, trying to get more in a circular, rounder shape. I'm just going to blot where I do have some left on my sponge. I'm just going to kind of use it to take some of the pigment off in some areas. All right, so right through here we have some greenery that's coming through that's a little bit on the darker side. I'm going to come back in with that first green that I used, and I'm just going to kind of pull just a little bit through here, maybe a few little dabs in the background. Back to my big sponge. So I'm just trying to eliminate edges when I'm blotting here. Not really trying to blend the colors together. I'm just literally trying to get rid of the edges that we see. Now I'm just gonna come in and very gently dab in with that light grayish blue I have. It is a little more on the gray side than the blue side, but that's okay because the color blue that's up here in the sky is, in the photo, it's the same exact color as our bird, and it makes the bird not stand out as well. So I purposely chose a little bit of a grayer blue for my sky. And I will come back in with regular pastels and we'll kind of make this a little more blue so it looks a little more like a sunny day. All right, I want to bring a few yellow swirls back in here just to mix it up a little bit. Okay, I think that's in a good spot for now. All right, so let's move on to getting our branch in. I think the branch is key to get that in first because everything else kind of comes off of it. So I'm gonna just use kind of a dark neutral brown. This is a new pastel. You can really use any pastel that's got a nice kind of a harder pastel that has a nice edge on it. I just kind of have the outline in here. I'm not going to color it in just yet. I just wanted to get the outline in. You know, I'm going to use a really light blue. Same thing, a new pastel, and I want to sketch in the bird. Too worried about being exact yet. I just want to kind of get his or her just get some space in here for the bird. All right, so we got our bird at home and our branch. Now what I'm going to do is start to put in my leaves and petals. And I'm doing this before I put the branch in. This is mostly just to kind of mark out where they live. I'm not, I will come back, I should say, and tighten them up a little bit later. But I just want to, again, just kind of mark them in where they live, get them a little space in my painting here. I'm just using a warm, kind of an in-between green. It's not real warm, it's not real cool. It's a little in between. I will come back with other greens just to get some dimension and, you know, layer some colors in here. But really just kind of blocking in the main areas of color. I'm going to break this pastel in half. This is a Jack Richardson. It's just a little bit long for some of these smaller leaves. I always think of my pastels like paint brushes, and I always think like I wouldn't be painting small things with a big fat brush. So I know breaking pastels can be traumatic. You know, we don't like to do that, but I find it it's a lot more helpful in the end. You get a better result when you're not struggling and fighting against your pastels. Now in the photo there's a leaf and it looks like it's coming right out of the bird's tail. That looks kind of weird. So I'm gonna just put some leaves, you know, make that a little more random. All right, now my flowers, I'm gonna use this as a really extremely pale blue. It's not white, even though it might look white. But these flowers are not pure white. They've got a little blue in them from the shadows. It looks like this is a cloudy day. And some of these are out of focus, so definitely have to pay attention to how we're blending these in. And you notice I'm not drawing every single stem and every little connecting piece of foliage in here. My main goal is to just get these shapes in where they need to be. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come in with my pink, and I'm going to use my dark pink. This is another Jack Richardson. And I'm just going to establish these little buds. Pastel's not flat. So these aren't real big marks. Trying to change up the direction of them a little bit here and there, change up the size of some of them. Okay, and I'm going to come in with a lighter, warmer green. Just warm up a few of these leaves. So that sun, even though it's a cloudy day, you know, that sun is having an impact. So really paying attention to where I see the warmer leaves versus the cooler leaves. I'm not being too concerned with shapes yet. I'm trying to kind of approximate leaves, but you know, I'm definitely more of an impressionist painter. I don't really paint realism. So I'm not working too hard to make sure everything here is perfectly shaped like a leaf. If you want to put in, you know, more time to really dig into the details, that is absolutely your prerogative. You can hear my dog over there scratching. I have what I call my studio dog. She's one of my 3 Chihuahuas that I have, and she loves to hang out with me here in the studio. Alright, I have a really pale yellow. It's not extremely pale, but it's a lighter yellow. And I'm just gonna add just a few marks in here just to soften a little bit more. Especially in these areas where we've got some of the blurrier leaves. As they get blurrier, they tend to get lighter. So I'm I'm just gonna bring a little of this up in here and blur that out. Because not everything is the same degree of blurriness. All right, so I've got a little bit, this is a dark, kind of an olivey green. It looks a little more brown on this paper. But after I blend it out, it'll lighten up. But just trying to bring some of that background darkness that's poking through over here. So I'm going to take my sponge, let's see, and just kind of blot and blur. Let's see what happens if I can. Yep, so I don't think the sponges work too well with regular pastel. Interesting. So instead, I'm going to use my handy favorite blending tool. This is just a little piece of foam pipe, and as you can see, it leaves the pastel on the paper better. So again, I'm just moving it around. Just to kind of give us that impression that it's in the background there. And depending how hard you push, you can leave a little more detail if you want to, or you can really push it around. And I'm just going to lighten this up, just a tad dark, so I'm just going to put a little of my warm light green over top. And I'll put some more leaves over top of this so it won't look quite as weird just sticking out here. But I think it's another branch, you know, coming out, going off into the distance, so. All right, so we're gonna finish up this first part of our lesson. I'm just gonna put in some of my marks for some of the little stems, and I'm just using another new pastel. This is kind of a dark olivey green, and I will definitely go over this and make these lighter because this is going to be too dark for these, but just wanting to kind of get these in here. So these are, looks like they're coming off of, oh, I forgot to put a stem. That's why I'm confused. That's all right. This is the one over here that I made up. That's okay. I'm getting lost in my own painting, but you know what? Sometimes that's fun, right? Looks like I need to bring a little branch down here. There we go. Just to give these guys something to come off of. And there's quite a few more coming down. Get those in. So what this is really doing is it's just helping me see the direction that these are all kind of flowing in. So otherwise, I'm tempted, you know, in my little brain to start putting things all over the place and making things that don't make any sense. So by just putting those in, it's just gonna kind of help me stay consistent and just make sense with what I'm doing. All right, so before we wrap up, I am gonna come in. This is really bothering me. I went a little too dark there. So I'm gonna take some of my white. Just blend that out. And I think once I start to bring in some leaves over top of this and give it just a little more purpose for being there, I think we'll be happier with it. Okay, so this is going to conclude the first half of this lesson. When we come back in part 2, obviously we need to get the bird in there. We'll finish up our branch and we'll get into just all the little finishing details and make this really something that we love. But I hope that you enjoyed this first part, and I hope to see you for part 2. Take care.